Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Microsoft Reactor live stream. I'm Isabel, your host, and I am thrilled to have you join us today for this exciting session. Before we begin, a quick reminder about the Reactor Code of Conduct. We're committed to fostering a welcoming, inclusive, and supportive environment, so please let's keep the chat respectful and constructive throughout today's session. I am delighted to introduce our fantastic speakers, Dharani and Jiva. Dharani is a Microsoft MVP in business applications, a solutions architect, and an active community leader. He specializes in Dynamics 365 and Power Platform and shares his expertise through events, blogs, and mentorship. Jiva is a Microsoft MVP and certified trainer with 13 years of experience in Dynamics, Power Platform, and Azure. He's passionate about creating scalable solutions, mentoring others, and helping businesses succeed. Feel free to drop your questions in the chat throughout today's session, and we'll address as many as we can. And don't worry if you miss anything, because the recording will be available on the Reactor YouTube channel after the session. Without any further ado, let's give a warm round of applause to our incredible guests.
Yeah, thanks a lot for your warm welcome, Isabel. Let me start with the presentation. Hi, everyone. Welcome. First of all, I would like to thank each and every one of you for taking your time and joining the session today. And we'll be going through the ALM for Power Platform 0 to Hero. And thanks a lot to Microsoft Reactor and Isabel for providing this wonderful opportunity for myself and Jiva. And as Isabel mentioned, my name is Dharani Balasubramaniam. People call me Dharani. And I'm so thrilled and excited to be part of the Microsoft Reactor. And today I'll be going through the Application Lifecycle Management, especially tailored for the Power Platform projects. So throughout the session, we will move from the basics of ALM, and then we will build to some of the advanced topics. So including how to set up the CI/CD pipeline, the build and release pipeline in detail. See, ALM may seem very complex for you guys at the first, but within the right tools and with the right practices, it becomes an essential part of maintaining a quality and an agility in a Power Platform solution. So I encourage everyone to ask questions along the way. Feel free to drop your questions in the chat window. See, at the end of the session, we will address all your questions. So without further ado, I will quickly get into the session. Now, before we dive into the core ALM concepts, I would like to quickly introduce myself so you know bit more about who is speaking today. As I mentioned, my name is Dharani Balasubramaniam. People call me Dharani, and I currently work as a senior manager with Capgemini Australia. And I'm a Microsoft MVP in the business applications area. And I'm honored to be recognized as an MVP in the business applications area, which allows me to stay closely connected with the latest advancements in the Microsoft ecosystem. In addition, I also actively involved in all the communities like Malaysia, Tamil Nadu, and the Sydney user groups. And I actively participate as a speaker and regularly sharing the knowledge at the user groups and also in the Microsoft community events. And also I'm recognized as a Microsoft Learn Experts, where I contribute to highly learning, will help the people to learn the Microsoft ecosystem, build their skills, and navigate the knowledge from the Microsoft landscape. And my passion lies in both building the effective solution and also in sharing the journey with the broader community, helping the others adapt the best practices and get most out of the Power Platform. So thank you once again all for joining today. And along with myself, my co-partner Jeevarajan Kumar is also there. I will pass it to him. Over to you, Jeeva.
Thank you, Dharani. Let me share my screen so that I can continue from there. Perfect. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you're connecting from. And thanks for the introduction, both of you. I really appreciate that. And let me not take much time going through my introduction again. So I just jump into the content. But just myself and Jiva, I'm based out of Auckland. I work as a solution architect for Welrada. And I'm also a Microsoft Business Application MVP since 2019. That's been 5 years now. And I am also Learn Expert and an active community contributor. So starting into the looking into the agenda. So what do we have for today? So as Dharani said, ALM might sound more technical. It used to be, but now it's become more user-friendly and more adaptive, where there are lots of low-code components being added, and then lots of user experience has been increased, tremendously and made better. Microsoft has made it much easier for having the decent level of ALM in any implementation. And Microsoft also recommends that even if you have have one or two developers, still that's if your team is, irrespective of what your team size is, it's highly recommended to have ALM practice to have the throughout the project. That makes things easier. So first and foremost, what is ALM? So there is a common misconception that when you say ALM, we are talking about mostly about moving solution or deployments, right? So deployment is, of course, it's heart of the ALM process, but it's not the only thing under the ALM. So ALM involves a broader area than just a deployment. So it includes environment strategy, it includes deployment, and it includes overall processes around that as well, which you'll see shortly, and with a good demo from Dharani as well. So first, as part of today's agenda, so what we'll do is we'll have the as I said, ALM is a broader picture than what we just think more than deployment. And today we'll see what is ALM, and then we'll see what are the core components of ALM, and we'll also see what are the Power Platform build tools, which we are going to see today in the later demo. Using those tools, how we're going to deploy the solutions, and then also the environment strategy and governance, which includes also part of ALM and source control, and also the best practices in ALM. So firstly, so what is ALM? So as you can see here, so ALM is a structured process that governs the complete life cycle of an application. So it's essentially a framework that guides how we're going to manage the life cycle of our application from the very first stages of the development to all the way through the testing and deployment, right? So, and also not just deployment, it doesn't stop right there after you go live. It also continues for every patch releases or any enhancements and maintenance and updates. You follow the ALM process. So that's in general. In Power Platform exclusively, so ALM is particularly valuable because how dynamic our solutions are, right? With ALM in place, we have a structured way to manage all our components, whether it's apps or workflows, or data integrators, Power Automate, even the files. You name it, pretty much most of them can be deployed as part of the ALM, and that makes the collaboration between the teams much easier. And another huge benefit of ALM is that it helps enforce the quality control, which is essential. By having a clearly defined processes, so we can test thoroughly and make sure the changes are consistent, and also it's consistently deployed across the environments without any hiccups when we are actually deploying it. And this leads to a efficient workflow and less room for error, of course, and then it's easily scalable as our demand grows. So in simple words, ALM is like a roadmap for building, deploying, and maintaining Power Platform applications efficiently and reliably. With a good ALM process in place, we can actually get ourselves a solution that's high quality and it's easily manageable and resilient over the time. That's a summary of what ALM is and how it's going to benefit in the bigger picture. So if I get into Power Platform, if I get into core components of the ALM in Power Platform, so as you can see, the first and foremost is going to be the solution, as you guessed. So solution is nothing but like a container or a package, that basically holds all the components of the Power Platform. So like tables, apps, flows, plugins, and all those kind of stuffs. And the solutions is the one that allow you to basically move the components from one environment to another environment. And it also helps us to organize, and we make sure we are deploying only what's intended, right? We don't want to deploy more than what is being required. So if you are from traditional development, it's like how we move the DLLs, like release DLLs and move, similar like that, but it's more like of a package, which is more like contained within the as per the settings that we have in the managed solutions. And next is source control. So there is no point of having ALM if you don't have the right source control. So the source control is going to be non-negotiable, right? So with tools like GitHub and Azure repository, so we can track every single changes that the team is doing in the solution, in the components, and we can version it, and it makes it easier to see the history, like who made change and what changes it was, and we can have the get it process there to review the change and then approve it. So source control will essentially help in collaborate projects when we have when team members working on the same area or same part of the component at the same time. And then comes the environment strategy. So environment strategy is going to be the discussion of environment strategy are probably going to start way before the build actually starts. Where we depends on the customer. It can vary from 2 environments to all the way to 7, 8 environments as well, which we have seen. So based on the environment, like a standard would be like a development environment, and then our testing environment, 1 or 2 testing environments, and then production environment. But based on the project's complexity, we can have like data migration environment, and then you have an integration environment exclusively, and a pre-production environment and a trial environment, and it keeps going on. So this strategy basically helps us to define how the components can be built and deployed throughout the production in a smoother way. And especially if it's a live environment, if we have a live solution, it also makes sure that we have a seamless deployments and then well-tested components without affecting the live users. And finally, the CI/CD. And CI/CD, continuous integration and continuous deployment. Pipelines are where the magic happens when it comes to ALM deployment, right? So they let us basically automate processes like solution exports, validations, deployments. So pretty much whatever we are doing manually, like exporting them and then validating the components and exporting it and then deploying it. And then when you deploy, what are the settings you basically set up during deploy? And if you're running solution checker to basically check validate the solution components and quality, that also can be done. So it all happens, whatever we're doing manually, it all can be automated via CI/CD. So that's the CI/CD component. So ideally, source control, solutions, environment strategy, and CI/CD together, all these components forms the foundation for the ALM in Power Platform. And that's why it makes the application more easier and scalable and collaborative. So going into the Power Platform build tools itself, right? So these tools are nothing but a set of tasks available in the Azure DevOps. So they're basically designed to support your Dynamics 365 or Power Platform application, and they allow us to automate and streamline key ALM processes, which we just discussed now, and it eventually it saves time and reduces the potential for human error during the deployments. So if you see some of the main DevOps tasks provided by Power Platform build tools will include like a solution import export, because that's the basic. You want to export the solution and you want to import the solution. And next thing would be probably solution pack and unpack. So with this solution pack and unpack, so we can basically break down the solution into separate components, and then we can check in it against the source control, and we can basically compare and track against changes. And we can also segregate what level of customization we are gonna what specific area of customization we're gonna take it to the next environment. What are the components that is work in progress? We're gonna leave it. Those kind of things can be done with the unpacking solution, and then again we pack it for deploying it. And then the third one is going to be package deployer. So package deployer, pretty much as the name says, it helps to deploy the complex solutions that may have all the components, configuration, and dependencies. So it's exclusively it's useful especially in the managing larger deployments. And then the solution checker, as I said previously, this is it's highly recommended to have solution checker in all the ALM processes you do, because that's going to basically check out health of the solution and identifying the potential issues. If there's any deprecated code or component being used, solution checker is going to call it out. And if there's any security issues, the solution checker is going to call it out. And all the best practices and violations before deployment can be identified by our solution checker. So it ensures basically our solution meets the Microsoft standards, and also it reduces the chances of errors in the production. And other one is the managed environments. So this feature basically allows us to control the setup and the configuration of the environments, making sure that they're ready for each stage in the development cycle. And then the forward pages and master data management is another thing that we need to consider. So when you are doing the data deployment, when you're doing the as part of the ALM process, a master data, the reference data is something that we have to consider, because when those master data, reference data will be used, when the to the process to once the business they get the actual transactional data, so those data will be referencing this master data, like for example price list, a product, something like that. And ALM can support that as well. So as part of ALM, you can have the master data being imported, and these tasks overall basically help us to enforce best practices and maintain consistency basically across the environment, making deployments faster, reliable, easier, pretty much all the good practices. And we'll see some in the action shortly when Dharani presents the demo. So this is a classic example of the environment strategy I was talking about. So in this case, you can see that, like we are talking about the dev environment, test environment, UAT, and production. So one for development, one for the internal testing or system integrated testing with the integration, and then one for user testing and one for production. Basically, like standard for environment. And of course, you have a default environment, but we wouldn't be using default environment for any of our development. It's only for the internal makers to play around with their internal apps that they want to try and test. But when it comes to the ALM as a process, we recommend using the dev environment, and then going from there. So going to the next one. So talking about the key elements of an effective environment strategy. So first thing is, of course, isolation of the environments. So having an environment exclusive for its own purpose. So for example, development environment for development, and user acceptance testing environment, UAT testing environment for UAT, and then production environment, which is the live environment. We can make and test features accordingly, which is a standard practice. And the data security is another critical or crucial factor. So we must ensure that sensitive data isn't unnecessarily exposed to non-prod environments. So for example, if you are doing data migration with personal data and information, there is a certain data migration strategy has to happen there to make sure that we don't migrate the sensitive information into the non-prod environment. If we have to do that, there's a different conversation of how we're going to do the obfuscation and masking those sensitive information before we put into the non-prod environment, so that it's not exposed, and also not unnecessary notifications or emails being sent to that. So those are all comes to the factor. Those are all achievable only if you have the right environment strategy in the first place. And then consistency across the environments. So ensuring that configurations and are consistent will help us to avoid issues during deployments. So making sure the transition of the end solution is smoother. And then the governance policies. So in addition to the environment setup, which you saw, there we also need to have a solid governance policies in this which includes access control, having proper naming convention, and having right environment lifecycle management. So if I talk about access control, which basically defines who has permission to do the CRUD operation, like create, update, read, and delete the environments. So that will help us to protect the sensitive data and also ensure environments aren't altered unintentionally, right? So there will be a certain permission where whom you want to basically copy or reset environments. So all these things comes under as a part of the access control. And then the naming convention, having the standard naming, following the standard naming convention to the environment makes it easier for user and also the internal team who are working on it to follow it and easily work on it. For example, if it's customer is ABC, I always go with abc.crm6.dynamics.com. And if it's dev, I just had ABC dev, ABC UAT, and ABC SIT, something like that. That way, the standard, it's easier for people to work on that. And then the lifecycle management. So establishing standard guidelines for creating and updating and decommissioning the environments it's critical. That will help us to keep environments relevant and manageable over the period of time. So probably before the go live, you might have like an data migration environment, and then once after a go live, and once you've done the delta, probably you might not need a data migration environment because all the data has been migrated and then it's been now available in the production. And probably for the governance perspective, you might still preserve the old data in the old system for a few months, and then you're probably not going to destroy it or not going to use it. And eventually, you don't need data migration environment to taking your storage capacity. So eventually, you will have a policy or process to basically delete the environment. So that's one of the example of managing the environment lifecycle. And some good practices in environment strategy and governance would be like conducting regular audits to ensure environments are being used effectively and securely, and also automate deployments between environments wherever possible to maintain consistency, and clearly establishing the roles and responsibility within the organization so that everyone knows who is responsible for which environment. And also by implementing these strategies and governance policies, we ensure that our environments are secure, reliable, and it minimizes the risks. And coming back to the best practices, so which you just saw now, basically, like setting up the regular audits and then automatic deployments, and then establishing the clear roles and responsibilities. And importance of a solution control, source control in ALM. So if you talk about the importance, it's how we use a GitHub and Azure repo to manage our solutions. So it is essential for tracking all the changes, collaborating with the team members, and maintaining a reliable history of our work, which makes it easier to roll back if anything goes wrong in the production or like a live environment. And that's how the solution source control is key for us. And then talking about the key features of the GitHub and the repo. So branching. So that's first one. Branching allows us to basically organize our code or component by separating development on features, and then on bug fixes, and then releases, then high priority releases. So all these things, can be managed, have to be managed with a proper branching strategy. And this will help us to basically, avoid conflicts, as the team members can work on different batches simultaneously. And pull requests. Pull requests are a way where we basically, once the changes are committed, to review, and then those changes has to be reviewed before it's been approved and merged into the branch. So that will ensure the quality and gives the team member internally, have the review process been set up. And then history, commit history. So every change made in source control is logged in, and including the person who made it. This gives us a clear history for any auditing purpose or any rollback if required. And integration with DevOps pipeline. GitHub and Azure DevOps integrate seamlessly with the Azure DevOps, allowing you to basically automate build and deployment tasks. So changes are automatically deployed to different environments whenever they are ready. And then in terms of the best practices in the source control, so as I said, first, branching strategy would be key. And then when committing, using the right messages, comments, in the committing helps. It is required when you have doing multiple developers working and doing multiple commits. It's easy to identify for the person who are reviewing it, or someone who has to go make changes or rollback. It's easy to identify. So make sure we follow the right descriptive, sensible messages. And then regularly merging and testing the changes to prevent conflicts. So by frequently merging branches, and especially when we are working on shared components, will minimize the risk of major conflicts that can delay the deployment. Unpack solution for more granular tracking. So as I said earlier, in Power Platform, unpacking solution means breaking down the individual components. So that will allow us to track at the finer level, not just at the solution level. And some common use cases, for source control includes, for example, collaborative development, managing versions for releases, and tracking and rollbacking changes. If a bug is introduced, for example, in a recent update, having a history of changes allow us to identify the root cause of the bug, and then in the source control and revert it necessarily, immediately, right? That's one of the classic example of using source control. And here's the process that Dharani is going to show right after this. This is the last slide I have, and then pretty much is going to be an hands-on demo, which you have been waiting for. So you can see the overall how the process flows, how the solutions has been exported and unpacked, and then how it's checked into the source control, and then how the build definition is used to basically show the artifacts, and then the release definition is used to deploy, and then into QA or testing environment, and then into UAT environment, and finally into the production. And you see different personnel being involved across the different stages. You'll see all this in live action now, and I'll pass it to Dharani for the demo.
you so much, Eva. So it was really wonderful. Without further ado, I will quickly take you all into the demo. I will quickly share my screen. So once you're able to see my screen, let me know. Okay. I hope the screen is visible now. So all good. Okay, I will start with the first Azure DevOps setup. So first, in order to start with the CI/CD or the ALM for the Power Platform, the first and foremost thing which we need is the Azure DevOps setup. So we will quickly go to the repos and we'll see like how to create a project, and I will quickly explain the Azure DevOps in detail, and then we'll take it from there. So if you log into the dev.azure.com, then you'll be able to see the screen where you'll be maintaining all your projects. And the left hand side, you will be having a multiple organization. You can have a multiple organization here. Like as of now, like for this demo, like I have all my projects are there in the Dharani 1743. So inside this organization, all those projects are there. So you can go on the right hand side, you can see the new project button. If you click on this, then it will ask you to provide the project name, description, and you can keep the visibility as a public or a private. And then you can click on the advanced one, then it will ask you to select the version control git, and you can select the work item process as well, whether you want agile, basic, or CMMI or Scrum. So all those things you will get a flexibility to select it. So once you select all those things, then click on create. Then within a fraction of a second, the project will get created. With the interest of time, I will just go with the existing project which I have already having it with myself. So for today's demo, like I will be using the Azure DevOps, and inside the Azure DevOps, like I will quickly give a walkthrough of like what is there in the Azure DevOps. The broadly, like we have overview, boards, repos, pipelines, test plans, and the artifacts. And if you go to the overview, like here, like you can have the complete the overall what is your project all about, like about this project. You can put it here, and you can get all your project stats on the right hand side, like how many work items are there, pull request, commits, work items completed, and how many percentage of build got succeeded, deployments got succeeded, how many members are involved in this project. So all those things we will be able to see it from here. And next is the pretty much dashboard. From the name itself, we can understand since that like it's a dashboard, like you can create a multiple charts, reports, and you can get into an dashboards, and you can put it over here. So as of now, I don't have any dashboards, so you can create all the dashboards from here. And next is the wiki. And if your project is having a good amount of documentation and you can maintain all those things into a wiki, you don't need to maintain any documentation outside. Actually, if you are having like a function specification, technical specification document, high-level design document, the data migration mapping document, pretty much all those things you can manage everything inside the wiki itself. And next we do have the boards. Boards are like we do have all these features like work items you can maintain, backlogs, sprints, queues, delivery plans, analytic views, all those things which comes under boards. And next is the main thing, repos. And this is the where will maintain all our codes, customization, and the configuration. So as of for today's demo, I have created a repository, and if you go to the manage repos, so you can see like these are all the repos under this particular project. I have like only one repository, and if you go to the repos, and you can create a multiple branches, as Jiva has mentioned the branching strategy in the previous thing. I'll quickly go through the branching strategy. It's always good to recommend to have the master branch as a main branch, and then you can, based on your release, for example, if you are doing a sprint 1, sprint 2, sprint 3 release, you can have your release branch in the name of a sprint 1, sprint 2, and sprint 3. You can quickly go ahead and create your sprints from here. Like if you want to have it as a sprint 1 branch, just create that new sprint branch from the master branch, and then click on create. Then it will create the sprint branch. For each and every release, it will have their own the sprint branch. And once the sprint is completed, once the code phrase is done, once it gets done to the production deployment, then that time we will take the code from here and we will merge it into the master branch. How the developers will work on it, they will try to create a new branch, And for example, if they are working on the feature 3 to 4, they will create a new branch called feature branch, and they will select it from the master branch, and they will create a feature branch here. Okay, so they will start working on this the feature, and once the feature is completed, what they will do is like they will commit the code into the feature branch, and they will create a pull request, and they will assign it to the sprint. And the solution architects or the technical lead, whoever is leading the project, they will review all the code, and they will validate and make sure everything is fine, and then they will merge the code into the sprint branch. And as soon as the code gets merged into the sprint branch, then the build and release pipeline will automatically get triggered, and it will do all the packing, committing the customization configuration into the Azure DevOps, and then it will pack the solution with the latest assemblies and the web resources which is available in the repos. And then finally it will pack the solution, and it will push it to the Artifactory, and the release definition will pick it, and it will pick the solution file from the artifacts, and it will deploy the solutions into the higher environments. So this is what about the branches, and this is what I have explained about the pull request. Once the developer completes his work, then he will create a pull request, and he will assign it to the technical lead or the solution architect. They will review, and they will make sure everything is fine. They will merge it with their current release branch. And next we do have the pipelines, and here is the main thing. Here we will be having the build pipelines and the release pipelines, and here you can maintain all your environments. You can create a multiple environments like a dev, SIT, UAT, and the production environments, and you can maintain all your environment variables over there. For example, Dynamics 365 CE instance, and if you are maintaining all your username and password in the Azure Key Vault, then that is also possible, and you will be able to maintain all this into the environments here. Now you can just click on that. I'm just putting the dev and creating it, and you can create an add resource, and you can add a resource over here, and that is also possible. And once this is done, and you can maintain all your values, everything over here. And then next we do have the release, and here we will maintain all our release. Like if you open the release, and you'll be able to see the SIT, UAT, pre-prod of the production. So, and again we do have the library, and where we will maintain all our variable groups, all those stuffs. And then we do have the task group and the deployment group, and finally we do have the test plan. And so all the testing team artifacts would be present under the test plans, like all the test plans, reports, parameter, configuration, run details, everything would be pretty much available under the test plans. And next, last but not least, we have the artifacts. Whenever the build gets succeeded, it will push all the solutions into an artifacts. That's where it will maintain all the files. The release definition will pick it from there, and it will deploy it to the other higher environments. So this is pretty much about the Azure DevOps tools. Now we'll quickly see the Azure Power Platform Build tools. I will quickly go to the Power Platform Build tools URL. So this is the URL in the marketplace. We do have this Power Platform Build tools. You just go to the Visual Studio Marketplace, and if you put in the search Power Platform Build tools, and it will take you to this particular page. So this is the free tool which has been given by the Microsoft. You can leverage this tool inside the Azure DevOps pipelines, and it will pretty much automate all the tasks, like importing the solution, exporting the solution, packaging the solution, then unpacking the solution. And if you want to do this checker, if you want to analyze the solution, like any high vulnerabilities are there with your respect to your customization, the configuration, all those things, this pretty much this Power Platform Build tools will do. And if you want to install this one, then click on the Get It Free. Then it will ask you to sign into your account. Then if you sign into your account, then it will ask you to select the organization where you would like to install this Power Platform Build tools. As of now, in my tenant, I have only one organization called the Dharani 17543, and it will automatically load the particular page, and it will pre-populate with that organization. Then finally, if you click on install button, then it will start installing the Power Platform Build tools in your Azure DevOps environment. It will take some time. So once it is done, but now I have already installed, but this is how the page looks. You can see here. So this is the organization. So there is a drop down which will list all the organizations, and if you select your organization and click on download, and this extension is already installed. That is the reason we are not seeing the the install button. But whereas if you need it for your on-premise server, for your local server, like you can download it from here, and pretty much you'll be able to use it inside your on-premise server. Yeah. So next thing is I will quickly go to the Azure DevOps and I will show you like what all the tasks available. I will quickly go to the pipelines now, and if you click on the existing pipeline, if you click on the edit button, then if you click on this plus and if you type writing Power Platform after installing, then you will be able to see like a hell lot of tasks available within this Power Platform builder tools. You can see here like a downloading and Power Pages, uploading the Power Pages. If you want to reset an environment, creating the environment, and if you want to check the connection, who am I, then setting the solution version. If you want to publish the customization, checker, tool installer, packing the solution, restoring the environment, copy, unpack, export, delete, then apply solution upgrade, backup, deploy package, delete, import. So lots and lots of options are there. Like you can import this and you can play around with all those things. With all this, the free tools, you will be able to effectively build the ALM for your Power Platform solution. That is the key thing which I'm trying to emphasize here. And this is the Power Platform builder tools. I will quickly go back to the next one. Next is the Power Platform environments. So okay, now we'll quickly jump into the make.powerapps.com. So if you navigate to the make.powerapps.com, then it will take you to this page. So as soon as this page gets loaded, in the right hand side, you will be able to see the environment options. If you click on this, then you will be able to see all the environments which is available with you. You can see the default environments and the 1 and the 2. And default environments, it is available for all the users in your tenant. So it is, as Steva mentioned, we should not use this default environment. It is the default environment comes for every user in your tenant. If you are implementing any Power Platform solution, it's always recommend not to use the default environment and have your own development environment, SIT, UAT, pre-prod, and the production environment. For today's demo, I have taken only 2 environments. I'm considering this as a dev environment and the second one as the SIT environment. So these are the 2 environments I'm considering it. Now I will quickly get into the solutions now. The solutions are kind of the packages for us. Like we will do the customization configuration inside the solution. Then once everything is done, then we will export the solution and we will move this solution to the other environments like SIT, UAT, pre-prod, and the production environment. So this is the solution which I have created for today's demo. And if you go inside this, and you can see all your components here. And over here in the Power Platform, we do have components like tables, sitemaps, cloud flows, apps, agents, lots of things are there. And you can go ahead and create your new table from here. Like if you just go and click on table, I'll just start from the blank. Okay, I'll just save and exit. So just taking some time. So once this gets added, then you can create a new component inside the solution, and also you can add the existing components. I'll also show you like how to add the existing components into a solution. And the solutions are broadly classified into 2 types, the managed and the unmanaged solution. In the development environment, we always work with the unmanaged solution. See, the unmanaged solution, from the name itself, we can pretty much understand that it's an unmanaged one. So you will be able to all the developers can put their hands and they can start working on all the components into it. That's the reason we are keeping that as an unmanaged component. That anyone can edit anything at any point of time. That is the literal meaning of the unmanaged solution with respect to the Dataverse environments. And we do have the managed environments where we will maintain all our SIT, UAT, pre-prod, and the production as a managed environments. The managed environments is kind of the secured environment where the people will not be go and make changes into the managed components. So the people will not be able to make any customization to the managed components. So once the developer gets complete their activity, once it gets reviewed, then we will promote to the higher environments as a managed environments. So by putting this, we are having a strong governance that no one will be able to go and modify any of the existing components in the production environments or in the higher environments. So that is the reason we always recommend to have the managed solutions in the higher environments. And we can export the unmanaged solution, whereas we cannot export the managed solution from one environment. And these are the two types. And we do have the patch solutions. What is, if you ask me, like what is a patch solution? For example, one major release has went to the production. Then after doing the smoke testing, if you found that like some of the build verification test is failing and it is a small change which we need to do it in any of the components, and if you want to quickly move it to the other environment, in this case we will just go with the patch solution. Instead of moving the big solution from the lower environment to the higher environment, we just go with the patch solution. Because if you take the big solution and if you move it from one environment to other environment, it will take a good amount of time, 15 to 20 minutes. It depends on how much of components it is available inside the solution. For hot fixes or for small bug fixes, it's always recommended to go with the patch solutions. And even the patch solution, you will be able to easily maintain with the CI/CD pipelines, which is available in the Azure DevOps. For today's demo, like we will take this as a solution, and we do have the event management app and the tables, and we'll see like how we are moving this solution from one environment to the other environment using the pipeline. And next, I will quickly touch base with the solutions I have told you, and I have told you like how to add the components. And while creating a solution, and we do have a publisher. And what's mean by that publisher? I will quickly explain like what is the publisher. If multiple implementation partner are involved with one of the implementation, it's always recommended to have their own publisher. For example, if the implementation partner XYZ is doing it, and they can have their prefixes XYZ here, so that what all the components they are creating inside the data warehouse solution, it starts with particular prefix called XYZ. If the implementation partner ABC is doing the solution for the one of the customer, then it's always recommended to have the prefix as a ABC underscore. Then it would be easy for us to segregate this customization has been done by which implementation partner, and this has been done by which implementation partner. It would be really easy for us to segregate if something went wrong. So it's always recommended to have all this metrics if you want to achieve a healthy ALM process. Now the next step is we will quickly see how to create a build and the release pipeline. Now let me quickly go back to this diagram, and here I will show you as a developer I'll be working on the source environment here, the customization, the configuration stuffs. I will do this piece, then once it is done, then I will trigger the pipeline that will export the solution from the source environment, and it will unpack and it will commit the code into an Azure DevOps, and then as soon as it gets done, then it will trigger the build, and it will pack all the solution with the mapping.xml which is available within the Azure DevOps, and it will pack the solution, and the build definition will pack the solution, and it will push it to the artifacts. And once the build definition gets succeeded, then the release definition, you can configure the release definition in such a way that you can automatically trigger the release definition once the builder definition gets succeeded. The release definition will automatically trigger, and it will pick the solution which is available in the Azure repos, artifacts, and it will start deploying the solution into an QA environment. And you can set an approvers if you want to deploy any components into an higher environments. For example, in my case, like I have configured test lead as a gatekeeper for the QA environment. Whenever the release gets triggered to the QA environment, first and foremost, it will send an email to the test manager to get their approval for this particular release. Once he clicks on the approve button, then the solution will come from this artifacts, and it will get deployed into an QA environment. Similarly, like if I want to deploy the solution into an UAT pre-prod or the production environment, I'm having the product owner as a gatekeeper for all those three environments. So whenever the release get triggered to this environment, so the product owner will be getting an email with the approve and the reject button. He can add an email, he can add a comment, and he can click on the approve button either from the email, or he can log into the Azure DevOps and he can do the approvals. Once that gets done, then it will automatically pick the solution from the Azure repos and it will start deploying the solutions into the respective environments. So as from the name itself, we understand that this is a queue environment where our internal testers, they will go and validate and they will make sure everything is built, all the features are built against the acceptance criteria in the user story. So once this gets confident, once the test manager gives an approval with everything is working fine, then the release to the UAT will happen. And once the product manager is satisfied with this particular release after testing all the features with the acceptance criteria, and similarly they will do the release to the pre-production and the production environment. So now I will quickly go back and I will quickly show you like how we can build the release and the build and the release pipeline. So if you want to create a build pipeline, so what you can do is like you can go here and click on the new pipeline, and it is pretty much easy and straightforward. If you click on it, see, you can create the pipeline in a multiple ways. One, either you can use the Power Platform build tools, or if you want to leverage the YAML file which you are already having it, so you can also leverage the YAML and you can do the CI/CD pipeline, the build and the release pipeline in a more flexible way. So as of now, I'm just going with this Azure DevOps Git repository, and I'm just selecting this one, and I'm just doing the startup pipeline. And see, this is the way of creating a pipeline using the YAML. Okay. And if you don't want to go with this, and if you want to leverage the Power Platform, the build tools, you just click on the classic editor, then it will automatically take you to this page. You just select which branch you want to trigger it, and just click on continue, and just click on the empty job, then automatically it will take you to this page. You don't need to change the agent pool and the agent specification. By default, it will come. But if you want to go for the separate agent pool, or if your organization is having a separate agent pool and the agent specifications, then you can go and select it over here. So once this is done, then now I will quickly go through the variables part. Like if you want to maintain any variables, like the development environment variable, the SIT variable, the UAT variable, all those things, if you want to maintain it, and you can maintain all those things over here. And you can keep the triggers. The triggers, you can either go for a scheduled one or the manual ones. If you click on this enable integration, and if you select the particular branch, whenever commit happen to this particular branch, then automatically this pipeline will get triggered and it will start doing this activity, whatever the task you have configured inside this. So this is the enable continuous integration. And next, we do have the scheduled option as well. And if you go ahead and click on the add button, and if you'd like to add this whenever the build definition want to trigger, so you can go ahead and select your days, and you can provide your time, and you can give the time zone. So all those things, it's a flexible here. As of now, I'm not going to select anything. And next, we do have the build definition. If you go to the build definition, so you can select the triggering build as well, and this is also possible. And next, we do have an options. So lots of options are there, like you can put the description, and you can keep the build number format, and all those things are possible actually. And here the timeout options also there, but as of now, like you no need to change anything. By default, Microsoft keeps all those things. And we do have one of the sweet feature available here, like create and work item or on failure. What we can do is, like whenever this build gets failed, then automatically you can create a bug and you can assign it to the requester. So whomever is triggering this build, so you can assign this to the requester. So if you quickly go to the work items, you will be able to see some of the build got failed and it got automatically assigned to me. So this is how it comes actually. Whenever the build gets failed, so this is how it comes. Automatically it will create a bug and it will assign it to myself, so that I will get an email notification saying that build get failed. Then I can quickly go and look into it, what is the issue, and then I can fix it and I can re-trigger the build. So this is one of the great option which is available here. So once all these things are done, then you can come back to the task and you can start adding all the tasks. So in the interest of time, I do have the existing pipeline which I have already built. I will quickly open this and I will explain this in detail here. Okay, so in this case, in our Power Platform project, what we are doing is like the first and foremost thing, if you want to use the Power Platform build tools, you need to add this Power Platform tool, the installer. But what this basically it will do is, if you hover over here, it will show you like this task is required before any other Power Platform builder task in the job. If you want to use any of the tool in the Power Platform builder tools, it's always a thumb rule that you need to use this Power Platform tool installer as a first job. What basically this do is it will install all the required packages from the NuGet. So that's what this Power Platform tool installer is doing. So this is the mandatory step which we need to do it. So once this is done, I'm just putting in who am I to check whether the connection is getting executed successfully or not. And the connection, there are two ways of establishing a connection here. So you can see here, authentication type is of two ways. One is the username and password. It is no MFA supported. And the second way is like the service principal and the client secret way, and this supports MFA. For example, if you have an MFA enabled, then you will not be able to leverage this username and password approach. And Microsoft strongly recommend us to use this principal and the client secret approach, where we'll be having the client ID, client secret. So usually you'll be able to establish a connection. You can do the app registration. By doing the app registration, we'll get all the client ID, client secret. With that, we can establish a connection. And it's also more secure and the safest way to do it actually. And I'll quickly show you like how, but for today's demo, I'm just using the username and the password one. How you can maintain this connection, I'll quickly show you. Like if you come here and if you click on the edit button, but now I'm not opening it because the password would get revealed. That's the reason I'm not opening it. But if you click on it, it will ask you to put the organization URL, username, password, then just click on OK, then automatically the connection will get established here. And if you go to the variables, and you can maintain all your environments over here, and the solution name, what all the variables you want, you can maintain pretty much, you can maintain all those things over there. And before exporting the solution, I'm just publishing it once to make sure all the customizations are published properly. Once that is done, then I'm start exporting the solution. This is an export command which is available. Here it will ask you to select the service connection, environment URL, and then solution name, and where you want to keep your output file. So all those things you will select and you will leave it. And then next we have the unpack. We are exporting the solution from here and we are unpacking it. And this unpack command will help us to unpack the solution in this particular format. So if you go to the repos, under the solution, so this is how I'm maintaining all the unpacked versions. You can see here unmanaged solution. Under this, you can see the app module, then app module sitemaps, then inside the other, like this is how like we will maintain the unpacked version. Why we need to maintain this unpacked version is it's always easy, like something went wrong. If multiple developers are working on the same environment, it always recommended to maintain the unpacked version inside the Azure DevOps, so that if something went wrong, then we can easily go and look into the Azure DevOps history, and then we can easily figure it out, like who has made this particular commit and why this has happened. All those things easily will be able to capture it. Okay. So once the unpack is done, then again I'm packing the solution here with the latest mapping.xml file. The mapping.xml file, I should be maintaining it here. I'm not sure whether I'm keeping it. No, I don't think so. I have this the file as of now, but the mapping.xml file will have the file to file path mapping, or file to folder mapping, or folder to folder mapping. So where we'll be mapping where, for example, all the web resources, the plugin codes, everything would be available in your Azure DevOps. Once the solution gets exported, then we will instruct this pipeline to pick the latest web resources, plugin solutions, and the workflow solutions from the Azure DevOps instead of bringing it from the developer environment. So that is the map file will do, and we'll select all the components and here the type of solution. You can go for both or managed or the unmanaged solution. So once all these things are done, then we will commit this, what all the things we are exporting and unpacking it. We are committing all the changes to an Azure DevOps. So here is the partial script for it. We are establishing a connection using the PAT personal access token, and we are committing it. Once that is done, then we are publishing all the solution into an artifacts. So once this gets done, then automatically the release definition is there. And I'll quickly open the release definition and I will show you how we have configured it. So here you can set up the which artifacts. This is the artifacts of the build definition, so which we have selected. And here you can see the continuous deployment trigger, and you can enable this one. So it creates a release every time a new build is available. Whenever the build gets succeeded, automatically, if you enable this one, then the release will trigger automatically and it will start deploying the solutions. And this is also available. And here also, like, pull request trigger is there. Enabling this will create a release every time a schedule artifact is available as part of the pull request workflow. Just from the definition itself, it clearly explains what it is doing. And here I have created multiple stages like SIT, UAT, pre-prod, and the production. Similarly, here we do have all the variables where we are maintain all the environment variables, solution name, all those things. And here you can configure your pre-deployment approvers. As I mentioned, here you can, for the SIT environment, you can go and configure the test manager. So they can be your gate checker and the trigger also, like you can after each release if you want to keep it. So all those options, lots of options are available. You can explore it. And even like if you want to do the gated check-in in the build process, that is also possible. See, some organization will have their own coding standards and they will do the quick gated check-in like by incorporating the check marks or sonar cube inside that build pipeline. For example, in some organization they maintain the coding standard as an 80%. Then the sonar cube or the check mark, it will run and it will do all the static code analysis and the FX scope analysis on it, and it will make sure like that particular developer is following all the organization standard best practices. If he is not following it, then it will automatically reject the commit and it will send out an email to the developer to fix and recommit it. So that is also possible with the help of the gated check-in, which I missed to cover it. And I will quickly get inside because the time is running out. So inside the release pipeline, as I mentioned earlier, if you want to leverage any of the Power Platform build tools, so you can see here, this is the first one, the first and foremost thing which you need to use it. And then we are checking whether the connection is working fine. And then we are importing the solution into it. Similarly, we do have the multiple environments. So it will get deployed over there. And you can see here, I have already run the pipeline and it got executed in the development environment 1. We have the solution. Similarly, in the development environment 2 as well, we will have this solution. So using our pipeline, which has successfully moved the solution from that environment to this environment. Yeah. So this is pretty much with the demo. I will quickly go back. I will quickly explain the best practices for the ALM in the Power Platform. You always need to adopt a clear environment strategy by segregating the environments like a dev, SIT, UAT, the pre-prod and the production environment. And we need to always use the source control for every solution, because if multiple people are working on the same project, it would be really critical. If something went wrong, we'll not be able to easily track it. But if you're having a proper source control in a place, it would be really easy to track each and everything, and we can roll back whenever we need it. And since we have this Power Platform build tools, we can automate the build and deployments using the CI/CD pipelines. It is also pretty much easy. Then always implement the solution checker for the quality control. This also you can hook it inside your build pipeline to make sure like you are building all the solution as per the Microsoft standard practices, and regularly review and clean up all your solution, because since multiple developers are working, they often go ahead and create multiple solutions in the development environment, which is not a good practice. So often, like if one developer is working on it, always like if it is better to stick with one solution and work on it. If multiple solutions are there, and we should have a proper governance team, they should go and regularly review and clean up all the solutions. And we need to define the roles and the access control, like who is responsible for what activity in a proper ALM process. Then only we'll be able to easily achieve the smoother ALM project for the Power Platform ALM solutions. So if you follow all those things which myself and Jiva covered, like we'll be able to properly implement a good ALM solution for the Power Platform projects. So that's it. Like if you have any questions, we can quickly go through the chat and we can run through the questions now.
Thank you, guys. It looks like we don't have any questions. You were that good. The audience is just in shock. Yeah, no questions. But if anyone has any questions, you guys can feel free to reach out to the speakers on LinkedIn. There it is. Actually, perfect timing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys can connect with Dorani on LinkedIn. And if you're watching the recording afterwards, again, that amazing, very useful for you to add this section at the end. Yeah, looks like that. No questions. Well, in that case, I just want to thank you guys for the very insightful session and amazing demo. And also thank you to all of our viewers for joining us today. Like I mentioned, don't worry if you missed any part of this live stream because the recording will be available on the Reactor YouTube channel. If we don't have any more questions, I think we are going to end this live stream. But thank you all again, and we wish you all a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you all.
Thanks everyone for joining.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for providing this wonderful opportunity to us. Thanks once again.
Thank
Thank you,
Merry
guys.
and happy holidays, everyone.
Happy holidays, everyone. Thank you.